Maria is the niece of Jose and Kitty, and her mom is Jose's older sister. So very close relationship. She's 2 months apart from Eric in age. The whole family, like, they were all really close. They were all close in age. So all the cousins would hang out all the time. But prior to the murders, like closer to them, she would see Lyle a lot more because they were in Jersey and he was in Princeton. So I think they would see each other a lot more because Eric was not over there. The family had already moved to Beverly Hills or
kind of moved as family. Like if one moved from one state, they all moved.
Yeah, she did mention that the families kind of followed each other around the country. Wherever someone went, the others followed, which kind of shows how close-knit the family was and still is. She said that the family is universally on the same page and I quote, universally forgiven and ready for them to have a second chance at life. Garagos also asked her how this trial and case being so public has affected their family, and she was very emotional and kind of threw tears. She said that the relentless examination of the family has been torture for decades. That is like a direct quote from her. She spent the last weekend with Lyle and Eric, and she talks to Lyle several times a day. Garagos was kind of asking like their relationship. Do they still communicate? How often do they communicate? Are they still as close as they once were? Also, Garagos asked her when the killings happened, like, did she grieve Jose and Kitty? And she said that she absolutely did grieve them, and finding out later that the brothers had done it added another level of betrayal and grieving. And she said it was trauma 360 degrees, direct quote. But even within the murders, like, finding out all this information, she never loved them less. Kind of the family universally is like, we never loved them less. Our views on them had never changed. Have they grown from this experience and changed now? Yes, they're completely different people, but they always loved and cared for them, even in these dark, really challenging times for the family to navigate. Yeah, they've apologized immensely over and over how sorry they are, because now Anna Maria also said this has caused generational trauma, mentioning that she's had to explain this to her kids. Her kids get asked about this in school, and it, you know, when Lyle and Eric did this, they probably could have never imagined in a million years it would get to where it is now. She didn't say this is just me saying this, but you don't think about, you think maybe you could get caught for this, but you don't think that your whole life and your whole family and everyone that knows you will be affected by this. You're kind of, I'm sure in that moment, just thinking about yourself and like, what have I done, but not what has this done to everyone else. So she kind of mentioned the impact that an event like this has had on their whole family. Also, Garagos asked about the super strike. He asked every witness about them committing a super strike, and she said that she would bet her life that they would never do something like that. She would happily welcome them into her home, have them around her kids. She literally doesn't fear them at all. She thinks they are fully rehabilitated, and they are really excited to be advocates for abuse. Basically, Anna Maria's was very compelling, very heartfelt. You can just see how much she believes in Eric and Lyle and how much she wants to see them home, which again, across the board with the family, that's how that went. And Billiam came up and kind of started cross-examining Anna Maria on the people's side. He started with a bunch of yes and no questions, kind of trying to put her in a hole of like, did you love them then? Yes. Do you love them now? Yes. Did you think they were good people then? Yes. Did you think that they would lie back then? No. Did you think they would kill their parents back then? Like, he was talking before the murder. She said no. So kind of just trying to put her in a hole of being like, well, they did do that. How can you trust them? Are they rehabilitated? He was really coming at her. He brought up the Tracy Baker script. They brought up one conversation that I guess she had with Lyle a few weeks ago about falsifying the trial and kind of admitting to that, and mentioning that they had talked to Tracy Baker about the script. Kind of old news, but he was like, have you guys spoken about that? And she was like, yes, it was brought up a few weeks ago, but you guys know about that. That is kind of old news from like the first and second trials. Garagos also objected to the way that the DA was treating Anna Maria, because they were really coming at her like aggressively almost. And Billiam, just as my opinion, I wrote down, he is so arrogant. He keeps looking back at us, the people, kind of smiling like, are you guys believing me? Am I doing a good job? Pacing back and forth, very antsy, nervous, kind of moves his body a lot, like when someone like with a big ego or too much confidence does. He has a very obnoxious energy, and it's like you feel it. And again, how I felt with Hockman, it's like giving child secondhand embarrassment. Like, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, I can barely look because it just feels weird and not genuine. Like, he's not trying to get the truth. He's just trying to like prove a point.
Look at me. Look what I'm doing.
Yeah, he's very like chauvinistic. He also asked if Lyle and Eric ever admitted to planning the murder happening on a specific date, and she said no. That was nothing that was ever discussed or that happened. And yeah, Garrigo's kind of closed with, are you the same person that you were when you were 18? And she said no, kind of closing out all of William's like yes and no questions of being like, well, did you love them back then? Do you love them now? And he was like, are you the same Anna Maria that you were back then? And she was like, obviously not. She's 54 years old now, so lived a lot of life and been to a lot of things. So that's kind of my summary on Anna Maria. It was an amazing testimony. She was up there for a while. I have 2 more that we've already experienced, but we have to go because of time. But I'm going to have a lot more by the time today is over. So just stay tuned and be patient, but I promise the updates are coming.